and welcome to the Spirit of the Valley. As you know, we love to encourage our friends in the neighborhood to come in and meet and greet. And I have a friend, old friend, who I'm catching up with, who everyone that is watching this right now knows, I swear. Rob Grabill, welcome aboard. I'm so glad to have you do this.
Judy, it's great to be here.
I'm thrilled. You know Rob from, if you play soccer, you know Rob. If you go to the White Church, you know Rob. If you, I don't know, there are a million things you've done, lightning, everything. But it was the perfect match. It was kind of how I started the show, which was someone with an athletic piece and then another life on the side. That might have been the bigger one, but this was the more fun one. And so you fit that mold that I'm now going back to. So it's a pleasure. I knew you, I haven't seen you in a while, but I've certainly heard about your changes. And when I met you, you were at Pemigewasset, Camp Pemigewasset.
Yes.
And that was a full year thing because I knew of all your travels. And so give me a little of the evolution, if you would.
Well, working at Camp Pemigewasset, which is a residential summer camp for boys north of here, is actually what brought me to the Upper Valley 25 years ago. Yep. When I started as the director there, I'd already been working there summers for quite a while, but it made sense to live closer to the actual camp. Yep. And so we moved as a young family with 2 kids just starting in the school system. And I worked at Pemi for 20 years as the director, and then retired just as we were marking our 100th year as a camp. Wow. So it was a very logical time to go out when things were really moving along very well there. Yeah. And after a year or so, I found myself with a new vocation, and I'd always been a member of the Church of Christ at Dartmouth College, which is always been and always will be, I guess, known in Hanover anyway as the White Church. That's because, not surprisingly, it's a big white church. And so had always been teaching Sunday school, and the associate pastor left. This was the very summer that I retired, and so I volunteered to be an interim director of some of the programs for children and youth, and that gave the search committee the opportunity to take the year it needed to decide what the church wanted. Exactly. And lo and behold, the search committee came back 7 or 8 months later and said to the congregation and to the search committee, we would rather hire a couple of lay persons to do the tasks that need doing. Love it. And so they hired me, and they hired Ann Bradley, who is actually known by more people in the Upper Valley. Known quantity. And Ann, having retired as the nurse at the Ray School after a long career there, was hired as our parish nurse to be in charge of pastoral care. And that's a model that is gaining a great deal more popularity in churches all over. To have churches be another focal point of community health care. And hospitals love the idea, church communities love the idea. Yeah. And so Ann and I were sort of brought on together, and I was brought on to do all of the youth programs, Sunday school and confirmation, but also campus ministry and adult education. And campus ministry at this church is a busy enterprise. I think a college town everybody wins in the situation. The school wins, the church wins, and certainly the students. Well, given that our church is Eleazar Wheelock's church, and he founded us a year or 2 before he founded Dartmouth. That's fun. And because we're sitting 100 yards from the back door of Baker Library, we get a lot of college students who come. Yep. And we, interesting anecdote, we have every year a big Thanksgiving dinner. Yep. And we invite everyone who wants to come for Thanksgiving dinner. And we had 8 or 9 international Dartmouth students who showed up. Oh. And that's that's a wonderful mission.
And they probably had no clue what a Thanksgiving dinner here looked like. Or maybe some did, but...
Some of them did. Some of them actually have been coming fairly regularly.
Oh, good.
And, you know, word got out. And so they put together, gee, the term is over, and here I am on campus with a welcoming setting and a 3-turkey Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh.
So I do campus ministry. I do adult education. And we have a lot of programs. There's no shortage of adult education in this community
like
with
Bible
Iliad.
Yeah, well, that's true. But you do things like Bible study?
We do.
Or,
actually, we do Bible study, and Iliad's favorite Bible study teacher is one of our members of our congregation, Fred Berthold.
Oh, perfect.
So Fred has done several things for that.
Wow.
We're actually doing a session this coming Sunday talking about the concept of just peace and talking about how the United Church of Christ is involved in waging peace. And we'll do a lot of book study groups.
That's good.
We'll take a topical book and read it together and then meet together and study. So there's a lot going on with that. And so this has been 3.5 years since I've started working at church.
I know this much about you. You've always been working 24/7. I mean, something's going on in your head or in your hands or somewhere on the field, or you're a busy guy, but you have always done that. I assume it's something you just thrive on.
I don't play golf.
Okay. See, you're missing something there.
And so, actually, my hobby is coaching soccer.
Well,
and
this is the piece I wanted to also. I mean, people out there know you for soccer, primarily. I think
it's slightly higher profile.
You've gotten very successful high school teams in your career. You've had the Lightning. You've done just soccer all over this valley.
There was, as you know quite well, this was something that was pre-existing.
Yeah.
There has been at Hanover High School for 50 years a culture of soccer that began in the 60s with David Ford, a wonderful coach and teacher, and then George Merrill for his 400 wins.
And unbelievable.
And so this was nothing new, but it was fun. I actually started at Hanover High School not by accident per se, but after George Merrill retired, Hanover hired one of their teachers, Chris Cheney, who was a very successful teacher and coach, and he brought me on as the assistant coach. His scenario was that, Rob, you could be the good cop, I'll be the bad cop. You're the kindly old assistant that everyone can come to
Pat the back
when I'm too mean. And we had a fabulous run, which ended with us winning a state championship. And then Chris got a wonderful offer at Kimball Union Academy and started a coaching career there. And so there I was. And
how many years is it now?
This is my 7th year. And
the church is fine with it. It works out. I mean,
it
or
does.
You work it in, put it that way.
It does work out. And actually, that is time that is allocated by me for my hobbies and my recreation, because
and that's a good one.
Certainly you have to get very fit to be coaching, so it really has dovetailed very, very nicely. And the afternoon times that I might be sitting in my office at church turn into evening times that I come back and get all my homework done.
So everything fits in.
It does.
I mean, coaching takes us a lot of time.
It does.
But it's not all year. It's not every
not all
season.
Year.
So you're intense for a while, and then you're.
One of the great things about the high school program is that it is seasonal.
Exactly.
And so you start in August and you go great guns, and school starts and you're in a very nice rhythm, and then thankfully, mercifully, it all ends in October, or what we hope for is ending in November.
November
actually.
is
we
perfect.
love playing soccer in November.
We know that, and you came close. You came close.
It was very important for us to leave a little on the table. This was the first year that we were in Division I, playing all the larger schools.
people were impressed. It was as good as a win in a lot of people's eyes, just because it was a challenge. It was a move up.
Well,
So-
moving to Division I was a real risk,
Yep.
but it was absolutely the right move.
Well, you like your kids to stretch. I mean, I have been married to hockey for years, and he used to ask to be moved up because he was it wasn't a good match. And
It's a very good term, is having them stretched.
just reach for it
And they
work
were
hard.
stretched as individual players, and they were challenged as a team.
Yeah.
And if you had told me this past August if we'd be playing Manchester Central for the Division I championship, I would have said, well, that's probably fairly ambitious. As we went along and we saw how well we were playing, we thought that it was a very good fit for us to be where we ended up. But leaving that one more step to be taken means we've got a good challenge for next year.
But playing up, in my experience as an athletic person, is always bettered me.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, you really do.
Every
You
game
play
was a
better
challenge.
with a better player.
Every game we were coming up against schools that were anywhere from 2 to 3 times larger than us.
That's the
So
big difference.
they had more athletes on their teams. They were bigger. They were fitter. They were more aggressive. And we needed to adapt to that, and we adapted quite well.
You whipped them into shape.
The other teams whipped us into shape, and we learned our survival skills
Well,
fairly
that's a
well.
good term, because you really are in a whole different world when you move up in those divisions.
Yeah.
And as you say, Hanover plays big cities,
Yeah.
and they have a huge pool. They have the cream of the crop out of a lot of kids, and it's in every sport. I've seen it happening, and you figure, if you're not looking at it the right way, well, if we lose this, it's okay, because they got. And that isn't how you look at it. You look at
No.
it as it's a challenge.
We looked at it as once we got going, we said, well, we've got no excuses. They may be bigger schools, but we have a great tradition. We have a tremendously deep roster. So as you go through the season, and you may have players injured, or you may have players, who when you call on them, they'll rise to the occasion. And in fact, the best game we played this year was a game in the semifinals where we played Londonderry High School, a perennial strong team,
Exactly.
and they'd beaten us 3-0 in the regular season. And we went in against Londonderry with 3 of our starters missing and a 4th one very sick. And we just plugged in a number of our other players and played with no fear and beat them in the very tail end of the game.
That's
on a
fun.
Spectacular goal. So that, and
It shows what kids have in them, too,
Yeah.
to rise to the occasion. And you think,
Exactly.
oh, I don't know if this kid can sub, but I've got to do it. That kid doesn't think that way. He says, put me in, coach.
And it happened again in the championship game. We got 1 or 2 of those players back, but in the course of the game, we had some guys go down with injuries. And so we would grab a sophomore off the bench who hadn't played much and with big round eyes
Trepidation.
went into the state championship game and just played superbly. And what a compliment to the individuals in question, what a compliment to the team.
Yep.
That they had all...
But also you have shown it, too. You've trusted them.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't carry them around and make them work all year and not say,
Absolutely.
I believe in you.
And they knew that. They knew that if the situation called for it, that they would get tapped on the shoulder. And some of our players didn't get that call, but they knew that if we needed them, they were ready. And so in the end, our best games were actually the scrimmages we had in practice.
That's fabulous.
Because we have a tremendous amount of depth in the program. We have 4 teams at
Now,
Hanover High School.
is that something, in the current state of your soccer program, I think of it as grooming, but do you see guys down the line that you know are going to be coming at you?
Judy, I see guys down the line in 3rd and 4th grade.
I figured that, because I knew Hank used to as well. I think people just, the ones that are going to be outstanding, and you've got your eye on them. And it doesn't mean they get special, preferential.
My only problem is that these 3rd and 4th graders will ask me if I'm going to be around when they're in high school, and I keep promising them that I am. And
Well,
so,
you have it in you,
so
probably.
now I'm stuck.
Well, you may have to just live up to that, but be careful what you promise.
Well, I've finally drawn the line at the kindergartners, and I'll say, maybe.
Well, they wouldn't be eligible. Too bad.
But
you,
one of the ways that you do keep in touch is through the Lightning program,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is Lightning has been around for 25 years as well, and started with a couple of enthusiastic coaches, was adopted after a couple of years by Bobby Clark,
Yes.
who is, I think now,
is.
universally known as the best coach in the country.
I think so.
He's
I think
currently the coach at Notre Dame,
Yep.
having been at
He's
Stanford,
Stanford.
having been at Dartmouth, having been the national coach for the country of New Zealand. And Bobby, we're all living off of Bobby's legacy of playing hard, playing fair, putting sportsmanship first, putting the development of players ahead of team results. And certainly that's Lightning's ethos, and they've carried that forward.
I think that's what you hear from people. I love the sportsmanship part, because I'd rather see them go away with that than anything else as adults. But other towns recognize it. They comment on it. We've gotten over what I saw when I first came up here, that intense rivalry with a town next door, where it wasn't even just a rivalry. It became much more than that. And that got simmered down.
It's very nice to have been part of de-escalating that and turning it into mutual admiration and cooperation, because of course in soccer, Hanover and Lebanon kids play together on all these teams, so they know each other.
Exactly.
One of the things that was not really advertised was that after the regular season was over, Hanover and Lebanon had a joint practice. So they came over and we scrimmaged against each other, and we did it in a controlled way so that we could do situations to practice for the tournament games that were coming up.
What a great idea.
It was a tremendous idea, and the friendship that you saw there.
Yeah.
Players catching a, hi, how you doing? Congratulations
That's
on
going
your
to
season.
always dissipate some of the rivalry feelings that
Exactly.
preceded them.
Exactly.
But it's been fun to watch that as a spectator, just the fact that you knew it was kind of, not ugly, but you'd heard enough to think, oh, well, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
And then you saw the councils get together, and you saw the whole thing just kind of simmer. And even go beyond simmering, into friendships, and where they began to realize these are just, we're all the same.
Well, they all play with each other during the summer. They follow each other because a lot of these players go off and play in college.
Exactly.
And if there's one thing that Hanover and Lebanon have in common, it's that a lot of these players are good enough to play in college, and many do, in fact, go off to play on the next level.
So they'll run into their neighboring friends.
Because we actually have a developmental mindset too. We're not about these championships. These championships come more or less as sort of a collateral outcome, because we're actually, I will confess it here, this is a well-kept secret, is that soccer is just a means to an end. We're part of the school community.
Exactly.
We are part we are a co-curricular activity. We are there to help these students become better members of the Hanover High School community.
Because that's what everyone hopes out of sports. I mean, too many people don't think that way in places we've all played against. But as I said, I'd rather see the sportsmanship, character, good values come out of this than an athletic.
And a lot of the soccer players are very active in other aspects of Hanover High. We have a number of musicians. In fact, every year when we have our annual end-of-season soccer celebration, we have a music recital at the end. And we had a jazz trio playing. We had a string quartet playing.
See, this is what I love people hearing, because the image and the optic in Hanover is one or the other, but you don't do the arts and the sports. And this is a town that's been very open-minded about it. In fact, I remember many town meetings and school meetings where they argued for the arts just so vehemently, because they didn't want it to be a second sister to athletics.
Well, as you know, and as I'm sure most of the people out in CATV land know, that the arts are a driving force at Hanover High School.
The productions, the concerts are just, I mean, you could take them on the road some of these shows.
And actually, some of them are going
Some
on
of
the
them
road.
have, and then they go on.
The band is going to Germany, or the string group is going to Japan.
And is there a French group
actually,
going
and the footnotes, I think, are going to Lincoln Center again.
See, now,
so they do travel quite a bit.
And half of them are athletes. This is the beauty,
and
good students to boot.
Another of them are athletes, and it's fun to not have conflict. I think one of our, certainly the prevailing ethic in soccer is that if you have to miss a practice, Wednesday afternoons will not have a lot of players at practice because they do a lot of music after school on Wednesdays. All the better.
You don't want a one-dimensional kiddo coming out of this, and
Exactly.
I remember having a music situation here with a child, and she asked if she could change her piano lesson day because softball was going to interfere, and the particular teacher was livid that she wasn't keeping the piano solo, alone, nothing else. And I had a long talk with her, and I said, I want my child to be multi-dimensional, and it ended up that we switched teachers because she wouldn't.
And I think we've kept perspective that way, and we've kept perspective so that we don't ask these players to play soccer all year round. Right. And as you know, it's a disturbing trend in sports. And because you're a hockey widow.
Hockey widow, I was.
That hockey starts in July and ends in late
thing.
June.
It's I mean, for the coach, it's a 6-month thing. It's an 8 or 9 month thing. Yeah. And when asked, he was about how many camps the kids should say. He said 1.
Yeah.
And then take them to a regular camp where they can do archery and
run
swimming
around
and tennis
and
be a kid and live in a tent or whatever.
Exactly.
And he was totally down on that.
And
summer
we're excited to have some of the boys who play soccer at Hanover be equally strong, if not stronger, in other sports. Some of the best basketball players are boys who played soccer. I was at basketball practice the other night, watching them. Baseball,
because seasonally
tennis,
they can do more
track,
than one
lacrosse,
very successfully.
Absolutely. And that's a good model.
It's a good model, and there's a little overlap, I remember, in the fall into other sports, into the winter, but it doesn't take away much because at a very premature time in the season.
And you also avoid being burned out on a sport. If you play a certain sport year-round, and you've started this at age 8, you're going to burn out by middle school.
You're going to lose that child before he needed to be burned.
Exactly.
I mean, he just... I remember a kiddo in 6th grade saying he was going to have to stop playing soccer because his parents wanted to start working on his resume for college, and I thought... I didn't say anything, needless to say, but it hurt me to hear that because he was passionate about it and he was being told he wouldn't get anywhere if he didn't start.
And you see this in gymnastics, and you see this in ice hockey, and you see this in actually a number of sports now. AAU basketball is notorious for extending a season and demanding a lot. Now, for kids who are driven to excel, it can be a great outlet.
And they're looking for a certain level to get to in college.
Lightning soccer gives kids a chance to get very good at that. But we don't give kids the impression that if they do that, they're going to get a college scholarship.
No.
Because good people, mark this down as your takeaway. There are no college scholarships out there for soccer players. I think maybe 3 players in the entire state of New Hampshire in the last 5 years have gotten college scholarships. So disabuse yourself of that notion.
Do that
right
early
now.
Because a lot of parents, and we all know it's an automatic human feeling, is to think that top of the heap here will translate to top of the heap, and it won't.
I hate to say it.
The percentage of kids that don't even get into the division they want, and much less pro, is so huge.
One of the trade-offs for our enhanced quality of life that we are the beneficiaries of living in the Upper Valley is that we are, relatively speaking, a sports backwater. Yes, we have our Carlton Fisks and our Matt Bonners and people who make it in the big time, but and thank goodness we're not in these sports hothouses in Florida.
Well,
and
your chances
Texas
are probably better of winning this lottery that they're talking about all day than getting into a really seriously, and it's hard to believe as a parent, and you don't want to discourage, but you want to be realistic when they ask advice on stuff like that.
Your chances are, I would say, worse of winning the lottery, but better than getting struck by lightning. So,
so somewhere in the middle, folks, there's a message in there that says you got a wonderful child who plays wonderful whatever in Hanover, but
Enjoy it.
when you're out in the bigger pond or the lake,
and enjoy it to the extent that you can play it intramurally in college.
that's what I love is when kids
have
say,
a life.
I'm playing club something versus
Yes.
because that means the college life is going to be really
Yes.
very
Exactly.
healthy for them. And okay, so we're running out of time very quickly. I
Oh,
told
come
you
now.
this would happen. How many? So you don't see an end to your coaching
No, I don't see an end to my coaching.
because it's a passion.
It is a passion, and it's part of the whole.
Yeah.
If you're working with young people, you're helping them become who they ought to be.
Exactly.
You're working on team building skills, and you're working on how to interact with each other, how to appreciate both success and failure, and learn that making a mistake isn't the worst thing that you can do. It's a precious learning opportunity.
It's such a learn, and you get to do it in all of your lives.
Exactly.
You get to do it in the church. You get to do it on the
Exactly.
field, and they're going to get that message one way or the other because you've got them.
And the church thing has been a great opportunity to keep learning myself, because I'm going to divinity school.
When will you be graduated, or when will you be
Uh,
ordained?
I'm hoping to be a member of the class at 2015.
And this is up
and,
at Bangor?
I am actually finishing up at Bangor
Oh,
Theological Seminary
okay.
because Bangor is closing
Oh,
its
shoot.
Master's in Divinity program. But as a matter of fact, they knew this was coming well in advance, and so they've more or less merged with Andover Newton
perfect.
Seminary. And I'm actually starting my Andover Newton career this spring. I'll be taking a course there.
You start one place and graduate the other.
And when I graduate from Andover Newton, by pre-arrangement, the diploma will have both Bangor and Andover Newton on it. It'll
like
be
that.
very distinctive.
I like
Probably
that.
Get a lot on eBay for it, or maybe not.
Put it out there. I want to see the action.
So after I graduate and I have a master's in divinity, that qualifies me to be ordained, but there still are a few more steps in the process, and I'm actually already well along in that. The ordination process is handled by a local body of our denomination, the United Church of Christ, and so I am, here's a mouthful, I'm a member in discernment with the Grafton Orange Association.
Discernment.
And so the discernment process means you tell them that you want to be ordained, and they say, here's what you need to be thinking about, and we'll be meeting with you yearly and getting an update from you. Ordination is a huge responsibility.
Of course.
Ordination allows you to be brought into people's lives at very important moments.
And in a way that no one else is.
In every life's milestone, birth, baptism, confirmation, ordination, marriage, death.
All the way through.
All of those mileposts of life.
Every phase.
And people will say I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Spiritual is how they do it on their own. Religious is when people get together
It's
and
the
they say,
man-made version, basically. Well, not man-made, but
religion means making community.
yeah. So, but it's organized versus what comes from within. That's
And religion means you're willing to make that faith journey with other people and be responsible with them and for them for each other. And
That's good.
that kind of community, I think, is a fairly priceless thing. So
Totally.
It's about community one way or another.
community is one of my favorite words.
Yeah.
It is. It's done.
Well,
If that doesn't go quickly, nothing does. I feel it every time, and I'm fascinated to hear and catch up with you
I'm hoping
on this.
I'm hoping that when you have me back in 3 years, I'll have that interesting collar in there. And actually, one of these years, I envision myself coaching a soccer game and putting the collar on the sidelines and see if that gets me a little slack with the referees. Oh, my son, my son, are you sure you want to make that call?
You just told a few people that your secret. That's good, though. No, I can see it. I can see you doing that, too. This has been fabulous. I loved catching up. I love the fact that you wear so many hats and always have. But you seem to be succeeding in all of them. And in 2015, or somewhat in there, you will be
Somewhere,
Pastor Bob.
yep,
Pastor Rob.
right around retirement age.
Oh, see?
And how clever
But that's
that I am in a profession, and I'm not going to say I chose the profession because the profession chose me.
Yeah.
Literally.
All right.
That's
yeah.
you.
But the
hear
age
that-
isn't ever going to be an issue.
Well, that's because in my profession we venerate age.
See,
and
when they choose popes at age 75 or 80, then
exactly, they're just getting ahead of
they're
steam.
just getting that experience. But I will get you back here.
Good.
And I will catch up on all the extra lives you're probably going to create between now and then. But good luck with all of that. It's very impressive what
Judy, thank
you've
you.
done and what you're doing. And it's for the betterment of everyone that watches us and beyond. I mean, obviously beyond, because the kids are better for it.
Well, you always know where to find me. If I'm not on the sidelines,
I know where to find
I'll
you.
be in a pew somewhere.
I know where to find you.
Good.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Judy.
It's been a treat.
Okay.
Well, guys, that shows you how quickly a good guest makes a show travel. It was a delight to have Rob here, and I'm sure it was for you too, because everyone out there knows him, whether from one venue or another. So I could say he's a Hanover star, but that wouldn't feel right. So he's just a well-known person that does a lot of good things. So thank you all, and you're going to see some pictures of his lives interspersed throughout the show, so that you'll see some church, some soccer, and but he sent them. So if he has any problems with them, it's his problem. So look for the show. I will let you know when it's going to be on. But I'm so glad that we had this happen today. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
All right. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.